Hello, my name is Alex S. Johnson. I'm your host of the Small Bear Show. And just an origin story for that, very, very quickly.
Aw,
Right. So I was born Halloween Day, 1966. Bless you. Um, when I was born, I was sent many teddy bears, including a teddy bear much like this. This is a smaller version, small SMOL of this teddy bear that was sent to me by a guy named John Cordy, who um, went on to become the Academy Award winning director of Who Are the Debolts. He also some of the films that he made include the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, Go Ask Alice, Twice Upon a Time for George Lucas. He's the guy who directed Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure, which was based on Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And he also was the DP on The Candidate, which was directed by one of my dad's best friends, Stephen M. Johnson is my dad, called um, so The Candidate influenced two presidential elections. He also made a little movie called The Bad News Bears. And that was the guy who sent me the teddy bear.
so
Um,
you're the so you're the small bad news bear or the big bad news bear?
well, I don't know. I mean,
It,
I'm hoping to be I'm hoping that the good news is that the bad news bear is really a good news bear.
and is it SMOL because it's Scandinavian and a Gund bear?
A Schmool bear. No, it's small because that's kind of like doggo speak. That was a whole memes thing a couple of years ago. We had
Uh,
like Schmoll, M Schmoll, and well, Oceana is a influencer and a trend follower, so you know all about like doggo, right?
Oh yeah, I have three catos, which are pretty much just giant squishmallows. You're probably gonna see them in the background. Just giving you a heads up.
I love it. I love it. We had just last week we had Mitzi Soreto, who's a novelist who has a dual citizenship in England and in the United States. And she does something called, well, she and her teddy bear called, I'm sorry, it's a distinguished gentleman, Teddy Teddaloo, are the authors of something called the Thelonious T. Bear Chronicles, as well as being mutual friends with one of my friends, Lucy Taylor, the dark fiction author who wrote The Safety of Unknown Cities, and who is in my book, The Axis of Evil, a heavy metal horror anthology. And so, which the sequel, the direct sequel to Axis of Evil, is Axis of Evil 2, Hand of Doom, a literary tribute to Black Sabbath. And I've got my fucking, you know, I'm honored to be wearing the Heaven and Hell tour. This is not vintage. It's not vintage, but it is the official merch of the Heaven and Hell tour, which is what got me started into Sabbath. I mean, they would always play Iron Man and that War Pigs, right? But when Dio joined forces, to form
Hmm.
the world's most awesome band, right? It, how could you improve on Sabbath? A little guy named Ronnie James Dio, who was in a band called Rainbow. And Rainbow got their name from a place he used to hang out a lot, which I used to hang out a lot too, called the Rainbow Bar and Grill in West Hollywood. And
Alex,
yes,
you've given me the title of my next book, which is going to be an anthology on a subject that Alex Johnson hasn't already done.
Are you sure that exists now? Wait a minute.
I don't know if that's possible, man.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm just throwing it out there, you know?
And so, I've issued an Oceana open invitation to Oceana to contribute to any and all of my books. Um, and Oceana was vetted. Well, they say that we're like two peas in the pod. I can't disagree. Um, and so did I did I forget to introduce people? Just tell me.
No, I think you introduced everybody,
Okay,
no?
I introduced everybody. Did I didn't introduce them while I was recording?
Oh, right. Yeah, it was pre-recorded, I
It
think
was
you were
pre-recorded.
mentioning this.
It was pre. Okay, so why I have with me today, um, I'm getting a strong sense of deja vu. Gary Grossman, the retired professor of animal ecology, a memoirist, a graphic novelist, a form, former, scientific researcher, working mainly with fishes and
Did somebody say fishes?
oh
Fish?
my gosh.
Oh,
Well, we're going to get into the what was it called?
The
The
Black Lagoon.
the Chud anthology that Michael contributed to, which was published by, I believe, Crystal Lake Entertainment, right? And that was he can. So we're going to get into Michael H. Hanson. Michael H. Hanson is a very renowned writer of dark fantasy, of horror, and um, a lot of different genres. I consider Michael to be like myself, a kind of a multi-genre, hybrid genre kind of guy. Um,
I like to jump around.
yeah, right. Wasn't that a song by Limp Bizkit? Jump around, right? Jump around, right?
No, it
Jump
was
around.
the it was somebody else. Get up and get down, jump around.
Jump
Yeah.
around, jump around. Yeah, that was it. That was it. And he's the creator of the SHA'DAA Shared Universe series, which is a sort of, and we're going to get into that as well. And that's a very, very well-known series. How many books have you done, Michael, with the SHA'DAA series?
I'm wrapping up the eighth volume now. They're all shared world anthologies. And oh, gee, with the latest book, I think we've got 64 authors altogether in it.
Okay, anytime you do another one, I would crave to be part of that. I would crave to be part of that. So,
Hmm.
You know,
so
being an academic for 40 years, I don't read any horror because, of course, I lived through it.
yes, yes.
Yo, that's a
It's too
fact.
close to home.
I mean, I will just tell you, and we're just going to get to Oceana in a second, but I was, for all of my kind of entitled and privileged background and growing up in the suburbs and you know having like $500 fucking stiff teddy bears is my first birthday gift. Well, it wasn't $500, but it's still expensive. I taught in the hood, man. And my mom, who's like 80, what did she say, 80, like 84 years old, she taught in Compton, right? Believe it or not, right? She's so like, man, I taught gang members. And it's
So
like
she
one
was there
time,
during the riots.
yes, I was there during the riots,
Oh.
well, I think they were still in what is Sacramento? No, no, they were living in Redondo, in Redondo. And I was living in Highland, well, on Mount Washington, which is in Northeast LA, and as in born in East LA. And then because I don't drive, I would walk home and I would cross this, like, I think it was, well, leading to the 101 exchange, leading to the 101, or the 110 rather, the 110 set north, so it would be 110 south, right? And I would we had somebody this gang called Los Avenidas, the avenues, right?
Very,
They were
very
a
well known gang, actually.
very well-known gang, right? And also the MA was very, very big when
They're
I
big
was
here too.
right. Yes. MA, MA, MA. And, you know, and so I would have to cross the street and then there was a lot of drive-bys. And I also worked in Eagle Rock, which was just, you know, it's just a long story, but anyway, so I worked for Banning High School, which is in the hood. I worked for El Camino College, which is in the hood of Torrance, which is actually a very, very prosperous community, and which has the world's largest indoor mall for a time, and this which was the place that Quentin Tarantino made Jackie Brown in. And what else? I worked with Betty White. Um,
The queen herself.
the queen herself, right? And but I've also so yeah, man, I just there's one time I was remember at El Camino College, which is in Torrance, that half my class didn't show up, and it was sort of like kind of naive because I'm from the suburbs. I'm a white man, from the suburbs, and I was like, so what's going on with the absenteeism? And they said, Professor Johnson, there was a summit meeting of the Crips and the Bloods. And I was like, yeah, but why is everybody absent?
Oh,
And I was
dude.
like, I know, man. I know. I'm from the suburbs, right? And there was like,
I am too, but I mean,
Huh?
okay, granted, I ended up involved in that stuff when I was younger, but come on.
okay, okay,
Alex,
okay.
Alex, you need to introduce Ossiana because you haven't really told her about her. Told us about her
Oh,
yet.
thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I did, but it was deja vu because I already did the pre thing. Well, anyway, Ossiana Tepfenhart is a non-binary transgender person who writes about issues like gender and sexuality. It writes about the adult entertainment industry, writes about porn stars, is a
Friends.
is a model, is a fetish model and a pinup model, is a highly successful and very makes some good money as an influencer, as a writer for Medium and for Substack, which is how we met, right? And just could you refresh my memory, Oceana, because how did we
So,
meet?
so, a little bit more about me. I do work in porn. I'm probably going to focus more on my writing soon.
Yeah.
But I ended up like I'm kind of a weird person because I came from a super, super wealthy background, like one of the richest towns in New Jersey. And I grew up in an all-white neighborhood. And we're talking like, think of the Archie movie from the 90s, the one that everyone wants to forget. That we still dress like that there. Um, I was considered a child prodigy. I started attending college classes at 12 years old. I
Damn.
started taking them for credit at 14, and then I had a nervous meltdown around 18 and ended up in like the worst type of crowd. Long story short, I ended up aligning myself with a lot of gang members to get out of a horrible situation. And I started to focus less on modeling and more on writing. And then I found like a massive following on Medium. I have about 50,000 followers and counting.
So
Um,
it is 50,000. That's what I
yeah,
thought. What did I when I asked Liner to generate, information about you, said 4,000, but it's like that was not kind of
4,000 on Substack,
on Substack, but 50,000 on
Medium.
Medium. Yeah, that's what
Mhm.
I thought. Yeah.
And pretty much, I just write about my life experiences, raising a middle finger to the quote unquote man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, man. The man.
basically
Is
trying
your
to. Huh?
Are you, so I've had a Medium account for 4 years, and no, not 4 years, since 2015. And all I do is post poems that I've published or writing that I've published. I republish it on my Medium account. And of course I have nothing in comparison to you follower wise, but I get almost nobody looking at my stuff anymore. And it seems to me that Medium's kind of dead and everybody's going to Substack.
So I definitely agree with that sentiment for a very large swath of the Medium population. Medium's algorithm is very strange because they have like a maximum amount of posts that you can post in a day now. They're dealing with a lot of AI crap being loaded because on Medium you get paid per view. You don't have
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
and when you have that kind of business model, it puts it right in the crosshairs of AI because it doesn't matter if it's good or not. If people read it, they'll do that.
Oceana, would you say the same thing is happening with Facebook, that people are leaving that and going to these other
Yeah,
venues? Okay.
it's because of Meta. It's because of X. Now that we're entering the FO season of the FAFO mode, where everybody's voted for an orange Mussolini-like object who seems to be very hell-bent on dismantling everything that I enjoy about this country. They're starting to realize they might have made a mistake. And they kind of realized that they put a lot of trust into oligarchs and didn't actually look at human beings and ask them, hey, you're really scary looking people. Are you bad? No? Okay, maybe we should coexist.
What a thought.
Yeah. So a lot of that is people actually dropping social media because it's gotten so bad for their mental health. One of the statistics on Facebook is that 1 out of every 3 people that you speak to, every 3 commenters, is fake. And Facebook actually had artificial intelligence users that they wanted to get to befriend other people.
Oh my gosh.
It's so creepy. And I've gotten into fights with people online when, they'll tell me really not nice things about the adult film industry, or they'll say pretty horrific things about women in general. And I look at their pages and I realize, oh, wait, there is no actual photo of them on here. People aren't real. It's so dystopian that once you see it, it's very hard to unsee it. New horror?
Well, the unfortunate thing about what we'll call the decline of Facebook is that, at least for me, that's where the writing community happens, and that the alternatives like Blue Sky or whatever, they don't provide it. It's not the same platform, and it doesn't have the same capabilities. And Blue Sky is like just Twitter without the bots, right?
True. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we're probably going to get to a point where social media is going to require an ID. And I'm actually one of the very few people who everyone's like, no, you should be able to have your own usernames. I want to say no, because I want to see that if you get on that platform, I want to make sure that you're actually a human being. I believe that so much of our thought and so much of the stuff that we've been trying to pull eyes towards was botched by robots, that it's actually a net loss. Facebook is actually, I've never actually used Facebook that much simply because, well, I had my own concerns about it due to existing legal issues. But I've noticed that that there's starting to get a very similar platform on Substack. Will I assume that people are going to miss the groups? Yes, but I think that Substack is coming up with something similar.
Well, that is the main difference between platforms like Blue Sky and Facebook, is that on the former you can't really set up groups like you can with Facebook. Facebook did try to sell you a kind of legitimate account. I don't know if you remember that or not, but as far as I can tell, it was a complete flop, mainly because, why should I pay for a legitimate account if you're going to flood my page with ads? I mean, it should be either or. I have a Substack because in order to comment on other people's Substacks, I clicked on the wrong button and I ended up with my own Substack. But I don't know. I'm not really looking for the paid subscriber kind of. I mean, I'm retired. I'm an old white guy, right? So I have a good pension and Social Security, and really my writing is just an attempt to share my feelings with the world, and find some generality there. So I don't need to be paid I don't want to say what I'm taking a long time to say and a complicated time is that I don't want to set up an account where people have to pay to read my poems.
Yeah.
But I get it if you're trying to make your rent. I mean, I guess I'm the voice of privilege here, huh?
I mean, I'm currently going through a bankruptcy because of stuff that platforms put me through. So I get it. There is a certain amount of privilege to be able to actually partake in the arts, you know? But the important thing that I think that a lot of platforms like Substack are doing, because they don't require you to have paid accounts,
Hmm.
they allow people to have that platform so that some people can go from the unprivileged to do this on their spare time while working at Burger King or whatever to doing what I do full time, which is mostly just eat, sleep, and write.
Yeah, that's a good point.
More
I
power
didn't
to
mean to
you.
imply that you had to pay to have access to Substack, because that's certainly not true, like you've said.
Very true.
But
So,
I'm like platformed out, I mean, I set up one, and it's got a good couple years, and then we ended up on the downward part of some sort of exponential curve, and everybody's over at Platform X, and it's like, fuck it, I can't learn how to use another platform. This is getting old.
Um,
no,
can,
like, huh?
can we, I'm sorry, can we address the Nazi situation with Substack? There was
Yes.
controversy. Okay, so
So for those not in the know, Substack actually had a issue where there were people who were straight up, they were writers for white supremacists, anti-gay, anti-trans organizations, and they were making as much as 50, 60,000 a year or more. Some of them were actually top sellers. Like we're talking like the top 20. Substack refused to boot them off the system because, well, it was free speech, which I'm sorry, I take the China approach to this. If your speech is a threat to our country, I'm going to want you off that platform. Free speech does not ever allow you to say stuff that is going to hurt other people. That's what America does not seem to understand. And because of yeah, because of the whole free speech thing, they refused to really take some off. They took off some of the free newsletters, but the paid newsletters are still there, which is kind of insane considering that Substack itself, at least in my experience, I'm speaking as somebody who's about as left leaning as humanly possible. Like, I'm so left leaning that a lot of feminists don't even like me. Now that's a thing. No, like if you're pro sex work, they actually will hate you. Um, but
and that kind of goes back to like, McKinnon and Andrea Dworkin, right? That
mhm.
yeah.
But because Substack is so overwhelmingly left leaning, it's kind of shocking to find out that they have this issue where they just won't boot off Nazis.
Sure, that makes so much sense.
But on the
Yeah.
other hand, Medium has always been very good at getting rid of hate speech. Well, better. Eh. So we're stuck
You,
between.
yeah, do you think both platforms are just going to coexist over time?
Oh, those, here's the problem. Substack has something that is financially sustainable for the long term. They have a business model that the more users they have and the more celebrities they have on there, the more money is going to be made and the more money is going to be put in their pocket. Medium's business model would have to change so heavily that I don't think we would recognize the platform if we actually had to keep it sustainable.
So how do they differ specifically?
One is per view. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody who pays $5 a month or $15 if you're a friend of Medium ends up making their money. As long as people are watching your stuff, if you run ads to your Medium account, guess what? Those are views. People will read it. If they're Medium members already, you make money off of them. And that means that if it's an AI bot and you're churning out 60, 70 things across like 20 different accounts, guess what? That's still allowed by Medium's policy. And that means money being siphoned off immensely from creators like me. And Medium doesn't have ads. Medium does not have paid subscribers. Medium does not have, for example, on the platform that I helped design a little bit, XChat fans, we have the ability to tip people, we have subscriptions, we have one-off prices, and we're actually looking at creating gift lists for adult content creators. Medium has none of that, which means that they can't take a slice of whatever people are paying towards the creator. All of the money that you're seeing right now in Medium was done by donations or was done through investments. There's going to become a critical point where they're not going to be able to pull back and make money doing this. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take. It's not a sustainable business outcome. And you have to figure out a way to save the company.
Could you talk a little bit about last news on the left? Because I'm really excited about that.
So, okay, I think that we've all been kind of watching the dumpster fire that is mainstream media. We've noticed that people have been resigning from the Washington Post after it was bought by Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and that people resigned because Bezos did not want people to complain about an oligarch doing oligarch things. Now, the thing is that these people were people of integrity. They wanted real democracy. But the longer that I've watched the Washington Post under Bezos's control, the more I started to notice that, oh, he's sane-washing Trump. Oh, let's not talk about billionaires in a bad way. Let's not talk about tax cuts for the rich in a bad way. Oh, yeah. Kids are not able to really read anymore, but it's cool. They can work at Amazon. Isn't that great? Everybody can work at Amazon. And I was sitting there, I was like, this guy is kissing the ring of Trump. Recently on CNN, one of the top newscasters who had a morning show, he's always been very critical about Trump. His name is Jim Acosta. He ended up criticizing Trump openly. Trump shot back and was like, oh, this person's a pest. I hate him, this, that, and the other. Next night, the staff at CNN decided to replace his morning show with Wolf Blitzer, a known conservative. And they're going to put his slot at midnight. That's retaliation. That's punishment. Jim openly resigned on air because he would not kiss the ring.
I saw that.
And I'm seeing people of true integrity, true morals, losing their jobs because our democracy's press, our mainstream media, is literally bending over backward for this tyrant, and I'm done with it. I don't know about you, but I am freaking done with it. I'm not gonna, I spent most of my teenage years being gaslit to shit about women's rights, about my right to exist, my right to dress the way I want to dress, the way that I want to be referred to as a person. And I don't know about you, But after dealing with that for most of my like post-pubescent life, I'm sick of it. And I'm seeing this happen now on a larger scale. I'm seeing it happen with TikTok, with all these trad influencers, which are sitting there literally trying to convince women to give up their rights because baby Jesus would want that. And you
Who
gotta be a good Christian.
who is that bizarre woman who's like the sister of Ben Shapiro? You know what I'm talking about? She's like
Holly Beth Stuckey
she's like
or
traditional Abby or Abby
oh, classically Abby.
classically Abby. Oh my God, what a fucking nightmare she is.
She's a crazy broad. But she's a broad who understands that, if she plays nice and she, puts out fetish content for right-wing media, she'll make a big old
What
paycheck.
you mean? You mean like the foot fetish shit?
Oh, you didn't notice that, did you? Oh yeah, all of these trad wives,
Yeah.
they are very, very, very heavily funded by guys who have a fetish for conservative women, specifically conservative farm girls or conservative mother types. If you go on Classically Abby's Reddit, you will see people literally just comparing pictures of her boobs or buying mouse pads which look like Abby with boobs. Like,
Yeah.
it is a thing. And that's what most of them are doing. They're actually sex workers. But because they're wholesome and they are Jesus friendly, they don't get the stigma that my friends do.
She got the
Do they
crazy
get,
eyes
do
though.
they get the
She got the
stigmata
crazy
though?
They don't get the stigma. People are starting to call it out after I started to notice it.
eyes. Yeah.
But but yeah, like there's another one which I'm still trying to figure out whether she's satire or whether she's just like whatever drug she was on. I want to have some because it must have
Oh,
been some really good
okay.
stuff. But she's like talking about fertility maxing by putting a red light up her hoo-ha for
Well,
Christ. Like, yeah. Yeah. These are the conservative influencers making money on TikTok.
okay, that just gave me a story idea for horror please trash. I'm definitely gonna write that shit.
Yeah.
Note
So
to self.
these women, like, they know they're in on a grift. They don't care that they are actually hurting young women by telling them to vote and to act against their own best interests. The best way to ever get out of a situation is to freaking learn stuff. They can take away your house. Your husband can leave you. They can take away your car. They can take away your money, but they can't take away what's in your head. They don't they don't ever say that. They're like, "Oh no, trust other men." Yeah. Go to a DV shelter and tell me that same shit over there, huh?
Well,
So,
yeah, in addition to what you're doing, and I think, Oceana, what you're doing is extremely valuable and important. So thank you. Bless you. Um, these outrages, they're so stressful and traumatizing, and we get sometimes into a cycle of trauma bonding,
we
you know,
do.
where we're sort of, duplicating a lot of negative things that are part of our upbringing and are, you mentioned, gaslighting. I was gaslighted for years as a neurodivergent person. I have dyscalculia, which is a specific learning disability, which means I'm also doubly exceptional. I can't process quantitative information, although damn sight better than most. Um, but what I've discovered, and I've kind of made, if I'm famous for anything, it's satire. Specifically, I created this thing called Fucked Up Fairy Tales, and I'm going to show you the cover of the
I
second
have read
volume.
this.
Right? The second volume was the cover is by a guy named Bill Plimpton, right? You know Bill Plimpton, right? He was one of the people who did the credits for The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing. And basically, and I would invite all of you. I know Gary Grossman isn't so much; he's more on the naturalism and the naturalist and the poetry side. But you know, we're living in extreme times, and extreme times called for, as the late great Hunter S. Thompson said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. And I think that what we need
That's
right
what we're
now
doing.
is satire. There was a guy named Mikhail Bakhtin who was one of the most important literary critics um, of Russia. He was a Russian guy, and he and one of his friends were responsible for I forget his name, but this is the guy who came up with sort of like childhood learning theory, basically.
Mhm.
So constructivism, right? You've heard of constructivism, social constructivism. Okay, so you can thank Mikhail Bakhtin. And he also came up with the idea of dialogism. Dialogism is, I'm sure, you're familiar with this concept, is the idea that literature is a conversation, right? It's a conversation whether we're going back to the original, we're Paleolithic guys. We've got stones. We're like, "Ugh," like scratching in with the charcoal on the, did um kill saber-toothed tiger like that. Ugh, you know, and then somebody adds some something to it, and somebody draws a penis on it, and it gets, things get
And that is how 90% of our old gods were made.
yes. And the old gods return. I made a lateral connection there because neurospicy. And you knew, Ossiana, you knew I was going to get into some John Shirley. This is my strength. This is my superpower as I'm neurodivergent as fuck. Okay, so there's a guy named John Shirley. Huge
Hashtag my hero.
inspiration. What?
Hashtag my hero.
Hashtag Oceanus Hero. He's a huge inspiration to me. Wrote some of the most outrageous stories, bizarro, like has nothing on John Shirley. I mean, he's the guy who created cyberpunk, which is, just think about that shit, right? He created cyberpunk. And his whole idea is a kind of addressing social injustice through a precise, almost like military execution of, you know, dark satire. Um, his story for Hand of Doom, a literary tribute to Black Sabbath. This original John Shirley, man. I have an original John Shirley. Let's see. Do I have it copy? Um, I have a copy somewhere around here. It is it is sort of reminiscent a little bit of the Outer Limits and the Twilight Zone, and people will just have to pick up a copy. Now, Michael Hanson here, of course, is as a contributor to the Hand of Doom book, is of course will receive a contributor's copy. Also, Hand
Yes.
of Doom, Hand of Doom. Um, I think one of the reasons that Shirley came on board, as well as people like Gemma Files, John Pelisano, who we're going to have next week. John Pelisano, of course, screenwriter for a guy named Ridley Scott, and
The Ridley Scott.
right, Bram
Wow.
Stoker award-winning um, author. You know who else is in the book? Paul M. Salmon, the guy who wrote Future Noir. Future Noir, which is the definitive book on the making of Blade Runner. He was embedded with Blade Runner, meaning that he was also a close friend of Philip K. Dick. And yeah, the man's a legend. He also worked on RoboCop. He was in with worked on Dune, David Lynch's Dune, the late great David Lynch, right? His house, unfortunately, Paul M. Salmon, shout out to Paul M. Salmon. He lost his house in LA. And, part of what he's dealing with and part of the trauma that he's overcoming is writing this story, which is a kind of an update on his story that he wrote for the anthology that he created called Splatterpunks Over the Edge, which was a sequel to the was it 1990 anthology that he created for St. Martin's Press called Splatterpunk's Extreme Horror. which is the very, very first and still the best splatterpunk anthology. So I'm very, very grateful for having provided some opportunities for people to literally overcome trauma through art, which I think is which is, you can't get better than that, right? I mean, your life is redeemed. You could be an extremely terrible person. I've done some terrible shit in my life. Who hasn't? But I've saved people's life. I saved one life, and working with people, and there's another person. I'm just gonna I'm not gonna get too deeply into this because of legal issues, but Carrie Lee Crum, the creator of the band called The Runaways, is a good friend of mine, and was initially involved with the with Hand of Doom. Unfortunately, had to drop out because of some issues, but is nevertheless represented in the William S. Burroughs Tribute Anthology, as well as the Bauhaus Tribute Anthology, with original work. Nobody has seen original work from Carrie Lee Crum, if they even know who she is. Was a queer pioneer, along with, of course, Joan Jett, the very great Joan Jett, with whom she created The Runaways. So, anyway, I'm
He's
sorry.
gorgeous.
I just had to put that in there, and I would just dearly love this anthology. Is so brilliant. It is. You would have a very, very short, um, you know, um, deadline for this, Oceana. But if I would love to have something from you.
I I probably will be doing it tonight.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
have to like actually come up with ideas.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna like badger my mom to get me like some kratom or some kava and just like
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. It is the world's most outrageously fun book. And I'm going to be probably doing, all-nighters indeed. Um,
is it
because
okay if I just like do an excerpt of like some of the crazy crap I've seen in a club? Because I feel like 80% of that just sounds like fiction anyway.
of course, of
Oh,
course.
perfect.
Yes,
All I
of
have to do is
course.
just get drunk and I'll be able to write it.
Of course. Of course. Yes. And you'll get a royalty cut, you get a contributor's copy, and any format you want, hardcover copy, you will be in there, and Michael H. Hanson is in there. And I'm sorry, Gary, this is this is more like dark fiction stuff. We will get back to you. I apologize.
Bro, you're literally making me turn the same color as my shirt. Come on now.
Because we're going to be getting back to talking about well, I want to talk about Burning Hearts, but that is so we'll cycle around back. So I just want to say, for the viewers out there, for our many fans and readers of Nocturnicorn Books, um, we are doing a documentary, and there's a woman named Vanessa H. Smith, who's a filmmaker in New York, and I believe that you're from the tri-state area yourself, right? So,
Hmm.
yes, is a filmmaker in New York, and you might want to be involved with this. I'm inviting all of you to be involved with this documentary project. Um, I'll just tell you one of the movies that she's made. And this movie, well, we're making several movies. One of them is about me. Um, Apparently, she finds me fascinating. I don't know, but one of them, um, at any rate, we're making a movie in and around Burning Hearts. Burning Hearts is the wildfires relief anthology that we're doing. And we have, so she is, which was suggested by my close friend Ellen Mabey. Um, Ellen Mabey is probably, I consider her the modern day William Blake, only she's funny. If you ever seen a movie called Dancing at the Blue Iguana,
I have not, but I'm still trying to figure out a funny William Blake, and it's just not happening in my brain.
no, no. So So you've heard of Sandra Oh, right? You've heard of Jennifer Tilly, you've heard of Daryl Hannah. She
Mhm.
they she is Ellen Mabey is one of these icons of our time where people like Greil Marcus are fans of hers. People, Henry Rollins is a fan. I'm gonna do a little show and tell. I'll be back in a second.
So yeah, I'm a little bit starstruck right now. I'm not used to actually being in conversations with people who have worked with people who I've looked up to since I was like a teenager. So if I just seem to be like beaming ear to ear, that's why.
Okay, so this is Ellen Mabey. She wrote this book called The Cowardice of Amnesia, and she is the reason for, among other things, the Death Jazz, which was my first poetry collection, which was also blurbed favorably by a guy named John Shirley. And she's responsible for the idea of she said, um, Alex, you should do a podcast. You're like an encyclopedia. And I was like, okay, Ellen, maybe anything you say turns into gold. Um, and some other stuff. And she came up with the Burning Hearts idea because I wanted to do a tribute to her because she's such a beautiful human being. And she's an incredibly brilliant poet and actress and lyricist, and um, she writes songs, you know. But she said, okay, look, we can do that, but I would be so honored, so honored. She says, so she talks. And she also giggles, right? And she said, but you need to do something about the wildfires. And I said, okay, what do you suggest? So we'll do a wildfire relief book. I said, okay, Ellen, maybe. Poetry goddess. Um, and I feel the same way about I love Henry Rollins, right? Who doesn't, right? Henry Rollins is one of my idols and one of the people that inspired the death jazz. And I just wrote to him last night and I said, Henry Rollins, you are a huge fan of Ellen Mabey. You published Ellen Mabey, this book right here. It's called 21361. That is Henry Rollins' imprint. That's the date of his birth. He is one of the reasons that I created Nocturnicorn Books. And I feel a lot of similarities because I too, despite the fact that I have a master's degree in English literature, I am also, he says he's very intense, right? And he's like, I am an autodidact, you know, like that. And so anyway, Ellen Mabey wrote this book called The Cowardice of Amnesia. Now, this is the cover. The cover art and the cover photography. This is the beautiful one. Maybe she calls it Jewish grandmother hair. This is
Hmm.
um, the back of the book. So you see, this is published by Henry Rollins, and some of the things that they say. Her work is raw and unpretentious, pristine, LA Weekly, right? Um, A magnificent pathos is the power that drives Ellen Mabey, placing her among the finest voices to emerge from the pre-millennium West. Wanda Coleman. She is also in the book called The Outlaw Bible of American Poetry, which is just everybody you can imagine who's any good, like William S. Burroughs, Allen Ginsberg, James Dean, yada, yada, yada. So, who did the cover photography and the art?
Um,
You won't be able to guess
no
what.
clue.
Um, okay, well, they were married to Exene Cervenka. They're a okay, they were in a movie series by Peter Jackson.
Hey, come on, it's not the New York Times crossword puzzle.
A couple that was in the Lord of the
Oh,
Rings. Is that what
come
you're saying?
on. It's an easy one, Gary.
Okay, repeat the clue.
Okay, they were in a movie series that was done by Peter Jackson. Come on, I'm
Yeah.
giving you
Well,
one.
obviously it's Lord of the Rings, but I haven't
Lord of the
memorized
Rings.
every character.
Okay,
Is
well,
it the dwarf?
actually, one of the contributors to Nocturnicorn Books was in Return of the Jedi, was played his name is Tim Dry, and he played one of the henchmen of Jabba the Hutt. But yeah, so Viggo Mortensen did this cover.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
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 Viggo Mortensen, right? And I'm such a huge fanboy of Viggo Mortensen, who isn't? He was in History of Violence by David Cronenberg, right?
That was
That
a
was
great
a
movie.
great film. This is so anyway. Um, okay, so this is the what she wrote. I don't know if you can read that.
Dear Alex, thanks a lot to you and your family for your warmth and support. Best wishes, Ellen Maybe.
Yeah, that is the beautiful Ellen Maybe. So this is called okay. So the Cowardice of Amnesia, Ellen Maybe, 1999, 1998. Edited by Maxine Cervenka. Cover artwork and photographs Viggo Mortensen, and it's published by 21361. And it has the info hotline, so it's actually it's, that's fucking far out. It's Henry Rollins' phone number. And knowing him, he's probably still has the same phone number, right? These people are just they're so pure. They're so pure. Lemmy was so pure. He was so there. He was just as real as anybody I've ever met. And everybody loved him. I've never met a single person. One of my best friends was his PA, and we were just talking the other night. He was also, I need to get to talking about Burning Hearts because that's the reason. That's the reason we're talking about Ellen Maybe. So she said, okay, but you need to do something about the wildfires. And I was like, okay, Ellen Maybe, poetry goddess. Command me, because every time you tell me, um, every time you suggest something, it turns into pure gold. First thing that she ever suggested to me, oh, you should publish the Death Jazz. I'll sell it at Beyond Baroque. I said, okay, that's cool. Praise for Alex S. Johnson and the Death Jazz. Alex S. Johnson's poetry is edging towards a new kind of hybrid multi-genre noir sci-fi surrealism. Go over the edge with him, John Shirley. Right. Alex S. Johnson's The Death Jazz collection is truly beautiful, full of vivid imagery and deep emotion. Ellen Maybe. So, um, and so as soon as she put the word out, word spread like the proverbial, to make a bad pun, wildfire.
Wildfire.
And one of the first people to sign on with Burning Hearts, well, besides, of course, Michael H. Hanson, who is just champing at the bit, feed me, Seymour. I am just very, very grateful to Michael. Was a woman named Vanessa Hedwig Smith, and Ossiana and I have talked about this privately. It's not, I'm not aware that she has an angry inch, but however, I will be, staying with her in New York. So, quien sabe, right? She seems friendly. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Vanessa. Please. She seems,
Nah,
no, no, but you know what I
I
mean.
had to make the Hedwig and the Angry Inch pun. Didn't mean anything by it.
Yeah. Um, that is, she was like, "Hey, Alex, we should make a movie. We should make a film." I was like, "Okay." And then we started talking and talking and talking and talking. And okay, I'll tell you who she's some of the subjects of the films that she's made. Um, again, I'm glad I have my little prop here. This guy, Bill Plimpton, right? Bill Plimpton. Witty and clever, says Bill Plimpton. Thank you, Bill Plimpton. Animation God. Now, I'm living the life, man. If it wasn't for the, degenerative brain condition and the constant pain, I would be like, hey, this is my perfect life. Um, the reason I can't die now is because of this, right? I'm able to do legendary shit. Legendary shit. So, Vanessa H. Smith, in addition to making several films about Bill Plimpton, also made a movie was involved with the production of a movie called In Search of Kundun. Now, you've heard of Kundun, you've seen this Martin Scorsese film about
Mhm.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And Vanessa was a on location um, technical expert and location manager in India for Kundun. In Search of Kundun was also the historical researcher for the film, which featured it's mostly about Martin Scorsese. And she made another film about the Dalai Lama, just a separate film. And those are just two things that she's done. And she basically she wants to make a movie about me. And I was like, okay, but we need to focus on Burning Hearts. So what we're doing is we're doing a series of on location readings, and we're going to do this as many different places that we can find people to host us all over the country. We're going to start out in LA, and in March 21st, we're going to do a reading at the I almost want to say the Cow Palace, San Francisco. No, the because it has a kind of a rock star vibe to it, right? And so I was like, where are we doing this? Beyond Baroque, Beyond Baroque. This is how I start where I started out. This is the where Amanda Gorman, you know, Junior Poet Laureate of the United States started out under the tutelage of, being mentored by Richard Modiano, who was the guy who invited me to read from the Death Just. I also read with Iris Berry. And if you know who Iris Berry is, if you don't know, Iris Berry is punk poetry royalty, right? And they also were, served for 4 years in the board of directors as the board of directors of Beyond Baroque. So we're going to be filming on location, and anybody who wants to participate can. We're having also at the last bookstore and all of this is on my Facebook, but and I'll put it up on my Substack as well, the Small Bear Review. But we are having one of the people who's coming out is for the reading at the last bookstore downtown LA is John Palisano, who's going to be on the show this coming week. Again, I don't know if I mentioned that John Palisano, Bram Stoker award-winning author, it's written for like Fangoria and Weird Tales, and he also is the screenwriter for Ridley Scott. So and we're going to be filming everything. And Vanessa wanted to make a movie about me too. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to throw that out of bed. I'm going to say, hey, this is my karma. This is, and it really, it's a forum, right? It's a forum for, I feel, because I completely understand. Well, our friend Caitlin or Kiernan was what I did an exclusive interview with Caitlin on my Substack. They said that, which is the only interview that they ever do again. really, they said that social media was worse than the atomic bomb. They
I'd
lost
agree with that.
100 followers. One close friend of theirs was literally accused of being a white supremacist because of rumors that were started on X and of being a transphobe. Now,
I've been called a transphobe by
okay,
trans people, and I'm like,
yes.
um,
You are yeah, right, right. We also have speaking of transgender individuals, we have a really, really good friend named Lyric Rivera, aka Neurodivergent Rebel, and who's just a lovely, lovely, lovely human being. And it's just, oh my God, we had them on the show, and man, we were trying to figure out some strategies, right? We just need to figure out some strategies. So we dropped out. I dropped out of the news cycle of revenge and retribution by robots a couple of months ago. And instead, I started to focus
Did
because,
you say robots?
yes, oh my gosh, that's the Metropolis
Metropolis.
robot. That's Maria. Yeah. So I just decided because I actually, this came about also because of Caitlin, or Koechlin, I guess. Koechlin or Kiernan, right? A lovely lass in Alabama. She's a They work as a vertebrate paleontologist for the University of Alabama, is also a biology professor, and according to the New York Times, one of our essential writers of dark fiction. And I went to Koechlin and I said, I'm basically, because being the sole proprietor and the guy who's responsible for Nocturnicorn Books, which is sort of like piloting a warship through, shark-infested waters, and I have people who literally want to murder me. Um,
Me
I,
too.
well, what?
We have so much in common.
Yes. And so I went to you know, Caitlin, and I said, hey, you know what? You publish with Subterranean Press, right? Um, I would love to publish with Subterranean Press, and I need to basically take the edge off of being the sole proprietor and doing all this work myself. And what do you say? Could you put in a good word? And they said no. But but there's a reason. They said I've only ever recommended anybody, and that was one person, Sonia Tafey, who's also a friend of mine, and we're mutual, you know, fans of one another. And but they gave me this. Caitlin gave me the same advice that was given that William S. Burroughs gave to Patti Smith, which was simply build your name. But it was I got a full email from them, yeah. And so that whole idea of really pulling away from the third rail of just this vicious cycle and concentrating on writing um, whatever it is, whatever it is a kind of an antidote, really, to this viciousness, this hatred, whether it's the anti-Semitism, anti whatever, just horrific propaganda, the nightmare situation where people are being cut off of Medicare and Medicaid and being denied, what's happening with transgender people, the hatred, the literal fucking genocidal propaganda. We had just the other day, we had Elon Musk go full Nazi, and he even went on Twitter or X or whatever,
Like,
some
my
shit,
heart goes out to you. No, no, that's not what that was.
right? It was like it was basically like saying, "Yeah, I meant it that way." I mean, it's like, what the fuck, dude. The quiet part out loud has become
The
really
loud part out loud.
the loud part out loud, right? And so as Poppy said, told me like back in the 90s, we're talking about the corruption in the government of New Orleans, and he said, you know, he always reminded sort of had a very, very quiet, sort of soft-spoken drawl. It's like if you don't you gotta laugh, otherwise you'll be crying all the time, like that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Poppy Z. Bright, transgressive fiction God, right? I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Man, I get I get to publish Poppy Z. Bright. Fuck, I'm a rock star. Anyway, so Plastic Jesus was published by Subterranean Press, and this was the pre-transition. Um, and well,
Oh, she's got a Measy.
she's got a Measy, yeah, man, with Poppy C. Bright and King Juan Carlos Ferguson one. Yeah, yeah. And this
Come
is
on, see, it's
about
okay to be a ham.
and this is Plastic Jesus is essentially about a an alternative universe gay Beatles. Because of course it's Poppy Z. Bright. What do you expect, right? I'm trying to see if I have where I put. So talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to be right back. I've got some more show and tell. So
Awesome.
I'll be back.
In a little bit, I do have to hop off because I do have a meeting with one of my employers.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
yeah.
So I will actually stay because this is this is more important. So okay. So Gary, I'm really really sorry. Um, So, Gary, could you tell us about you wrote a memoir, um, and about your life and about it involves fishing, right?
Well, it's about my whole career. So it
Okay.
starts out really with my my grandparents. Uh, Here's the cover right here, available via Amazon. My grandparents leaving Russia, but mostly it's about my career as a scientist. Uh, and I did all the text, and the drawing was done by a guy named Ryan Taveras. And the drawings were based on photographs that I have. So I wrote the book, excuse me, really for my kids, who are grown, by the way. And but also I was raised by a single mom who was mentally ill. And so it was supposed to be, or it is, a testament to kids who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and showing that they too can end up a scientist if they want to be a scientist, or a poet, or a scientist poet. There are caveats in the book because things were actually quite a bit easier when I was coming up than they are now, and I always try to remember that. Financial aid for kids going to school was easy to get, and as a result, I was able to go to some good schools all the way through my PhD and emerge without any debt. In fact, there's an amusing story. My wife and I were about to graduate college debt free, with her with a bachelor's degree and me with a PhD.
Mhm.
And we thought, student loan interest rates are still really low. So our last semester, we took $2,500 out in student loans,
Oh
which
wow.
was an immense amount in 1979,
Yeah.
and lived high off the hog.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, and I started writing poetry in the mid 90s, when my oldest daughter was born. She was born in the early 90s. And I'd always been interested in creative writing, but had focused my skills on producing readable scientific papers. which some would say is an oxymoron in itself. But I did take quite a bit of pride in my writing and worked on it hard, and that actually helped in writing poetry. I mean, they kind of feed back and forth because in both cases you're trying to write something to capture a complex subject in as few words and as great a description as possible. And someday I'll write an essay about that, how poetry informs
That's,
scientific writing and vice versa.
um,
Um,
have you ever, I'm sorry, have you ever read Danny Dillard?
Annie Dillard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Danny
yeah.
Dillard, yeah.
Sure. Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, and
Yeah, man.
someone who went from a PhD in bird behavior to being a great nature writer. So,
Yeah.
uh, anyway, in the 90s, those were the days of self-addressed stamped envelopes. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember that or not, but
Yeah.
so I wrote and published a fair number of poems, maybe 20 poems or something in the next 10 years. And then I don't know, I got interested in stone carving and interested in playing the ukulele. And I have this kind of, you've heard of the 10-year wildlife cycle where, grouse populations and hare populations uh, have a 10-year cycle. And so
I
I
didn't
have
know about that.
a hobby 10-year cycle. Every 10 years, I cycle into something new and keep the other one going.
What is,
I
what is the,
did I did bring in two poems.
oh yeah.
Like I don't write erotic stuff, but since I do kind of write erotic stuff, but not blatantly erotic stuff.
Oh well,
Except for these two poems, since
hey,
Ossiana was going to be on this show, I figured
you,
I'd
you, you can,
I'd
you can still
I'd
be on.
flout my erotic props here.
Oh, nice.
So this is called. These are both unpublished, but they're sitting in a bunch of places. This is called Nothing Lasts. As Mom exhaled her last, I wondered how thoughts traverse closed eyelids and which memories would last like hard alabaster. I mean, there's always another pizza after my wife eats the last slice, even if I have to pick up the phone to reorder. Do we still say pick up the phone? Or is it just, where's my cell, blurted to a now empty room? And what about the last remaining Luxardo cherry in the jar? Original maraschino, though they have no stems, so you can't manage that bar trick for last call. The one of tying a knot in the stem using only your tongue. A flex, proving value as potential lover, if only for one last hour on one last night. And will your ultimate amour be the last person you'll entice into the empty atrium of your heart? When you take them, will it be your current home or your last flat? Or will both lover and house write themselves into the last chapter of your life? Wasn't it Schrodinger who said, everyone is both first and last, as well as someone in between?
That's brilliant, man.
Wow, thank you. And here's another one. Got to kind of file through these. This is called Language Arts. I'm considering how things classify, either as lewd or not lewd. Such a chewy word, a mouthful, headlining tongue, lips, and jaws, a playful nip from incisors. And colors. Pink is lewd, coral is lewd, as are rose and raspberry. But fuchsia and magenta, nah. They bellow in a fake O kind of way. Are you finished yet? Just too much, overdone, like a cut of Wagyu cooked well rather than rare. Lewdness is color that pants rapidly or oscillates smoothly, sans volition. The wet whisper of wind over teeth as breath draws in and is pushed out, mirroring the undulating tides, subtle but hot. And lewdness courses the channels of my brain as my fingers trickle over the unstrung pearls of your spine.
Wow. Nice.
Anyway, so there's a little poetry. I have two books. everything, all my books are available on Amazon. Can you see both those?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And I have a third book that's in process. So here I am, scientist, poet, trying to survive. What can I say?
Yeah, you're amazing. Would you like to be part of the Burning Hearts documentary?
Sure. Are you going to come to Athens, Georgia, or pay for
Well,
me to come to LA?
well,
Either will work.
I'm in Sacramento. The filmmaker is in New York, but she flies, around the world. It depends on what kind of budget we can get because we've been talking with Geffen, so who knows? Because initially, see, we had the idea of doing a stadium show, but then I guess that and of course, Gaga and Stevie Wonder and all those people, if they chip in because that's LA, is very
Right.
much, to
Well,
say,
if we can work out,
yeah,
the devil's in the details,
yeah,
right?
right. The devil's in the
I love to disseminate art. I love benefits.
yeah,
You know, we need we need to make the world a better place. And although my
right,
contribution is small, it's
yeah.
uh, still worth doing.
Well, what I think is because I have a state-of-the-art, MacBook Pro with like enhanced with fucking nanotechnology, which it just feels like overkill to me. It's because it can
You can now teleport me. Is that what you're trying to say?
yes, yes. I can materialize you anywhere now. And so that's how we're going to do it. We're going to basically teleport you.
Okay. All right.
And those things that look like, sun streaks.
Right. The sun coming through the blind slats
Yeah,
of my window blinds.
you're right. Believe what you will. You know,
Your area is still sunny?
What did you say, Oceana?
Your area is still sunny?
Yeah, yeah.
It's dark out by me already.
Where are you?
I'm in Jersey.
Oh, well, you don't really sound like you're from Jersey. I mean, you did there when you said Jersey, but otherwise.
another person who's a contributor to all of my books and who was also in Jersey, a guy named Greg Tomani, who's one of the world's leading, you know, like intellectuals. He's like works closely. He's been endorsed by Dr. Cornel West, who's also his wrote the foreword for his original philosophical treatise on it's the first U.S. Really philosopher that we've ever had to create an entire system, and people like Dr. Gayatri Spivak, are fans of his, right? Zizek, I guess I forget how to pronounce his name, but that guy Zizek is a fan
Mhm.
of his, right? Greg Tomani, and we had him on the first show, and we're going to have him back as a regular guest. And he's contributed to the Burroughs book. Um, Oceana, you're welcome to contribute to the Burroughs book. It's still open because we're
I'm
waiting for V
I'm gonna
Vale.
be pulling an all-nighter tonight, so
So yeah, we're waiting for V Vale. Val Vale, who fucking created research books. Yes, so that is,
you
right.
you realize like I'm probably gonna like see my name among these people and I'm just gonna keel over dead, right?
Yes, right. Well, or in the words of David J. Haskins, undead, undead, undead.
I
But
mean,
yeah, right,
I'm considered a vampire for a reason or two, so
right.
I guess it kind of works.
Yeah, so you can tell all your friends you're in an anthology with David J. Haskins
Oh my God,
You
bro.
say vampire?
and Jarbo and
Hey there,
Michael
fellow
A.
vampire.
Hanson and Poppy Z. Bright and Caitlin R. Kiernan and John Shirley. Did I mention John Shirley? Right.
I like you realize if you bring me on a podcast, you're not gonna be able to get a word out of me. You've seen how like starstruck I was when you broached me with all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, believe it or not, this is irony for you. When we started when we started this show, and you started in, you're an extremely passionate person, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so like they are so fucking, I don't know what the word is, because you're extremely androgynous, and that's a major, turn on for
Thank
me.
you.
I'll admit it. And you've got that energy, man. And I saw that show you did with that professor, that transgender professor, right? Which is really, really great show. Remind me of their name.
Amethysta?
Amethysta. Yeah, that was just beautiful, beautiful, and got shit got crazy, right? But I love that. I love that. I also love the thing you did with Rich. Forget. It was about more like making money. We need to make some money. So let's make some money, man. I mean, we've got like with the combined wattage and the combined audience of all of these people, just think about it, right? Like how many millions of fans does Bauhaus and Love and Rockets have? So, you know,
Bruh.
but seriously, I want to work with you to come up with some sort of, you know, like how do you promote some without money? How do we promote this without money? Because we need to come up with a way to sell this. Maybe we could do some medium stuff.
Um, we're definitely going to be doing some medium stuff. I could maybe tap
Yeah,
some of my friends to give a shout out.
yeah,
I have I have a couple of friends who actually do live in LA, so this would be
okay,
very apropos for them.
right.
One of them, she recently got evacuated because of the fire, and she's back. Her stuff is safe, her pets are safe, she's doing good.
Yeah, good, good, good to hear that. So anybody and everybody is welcome to come to the readings. David is not going to be making the last bookstore because they're going to be in Ireland, but hopefully in the future we will have a segment. I mean, it's inevitable that we will have a segment about David J. Haskins, and where David J. Haskins is concerned, then inevitably we'll have Peter Murphy and Trent Reznor. It's a sort of like a snowball, right? I'm a 1 degree of separation from Billy Bob Thornton, and one
I
degree of
mean,
separation from Cornel West.
like Peter Murphy, like that dude has
Yeah.
helped influence my personal style almost as much as Eldritch did. I mean,
Right? Okay. Well, speaking of Eldritch, no, I don't know him. I do. Apparently, Pat Morrison is very awesome and approachable, like AKA Alice, like Pat Bag, right? They started out as the Bags, right? And then um, oh my gosh, yeah, so that's a whole other thing. And then yeah, so I want to do well. One of my pet project is Dominion, a literary tribute to the Sisters of Mercy. I just, you know, it's gotta happen. I've been bugging the shit out of Caitlin, just say,
I
you
see
know,
the war of the big
Yeah.
machine.
dang, dang.
Michael, you're right. Nothing is left. There are no topics left.
Well, we'll just see. I mean, first things first, Bauhaus. And so I'd like to turn this over to Michael. And first, I want to just to maintain the ball in the air and whatever, then and to keep the current focused in one direction. So Michael wrote an amazing story for the Bauhaus book, which is called Stigmata Martyr. And could you tell us something about the genesis of this story, Michael, and what was involved, how you took it from the initial, of course, the lyrics by Haskins and the music. It's usually Haskins wrote most of the lyrics, I believe, and maybe he can correct me, but the music is by everybody, and that's how Bela Lugosi's death came about, and he's made quite a little industry out of Bela Lugosi's dead. You know, there's so many different versions of it now. Which are
Well, it
kind
started
of
out with a lot of interesting lyrics, which got my
yeah.
mind moving in a direction to have a kind of a modern day prophetic figure suddenly sporting stigmatas and going out in the world and performing miracles. But for some reason, the music, unlike the lyrics to me, were really evocative in a very dark way. And so my story started changing and evolving into something much different.
Yeah,
I decided to write it in a way where you have to read between the lines to see what's happening to the main character. And the problem is her psychology is being warped by the way she's being treated by the people around her. So it ends up going in a very dark direction. I can't go into too much detail without spoiling it because I want
yeah,
everyone
sure.
to read the story. But it ends up turning into a supernatural piece and even a bit of a horror piece. And let's ignore that phone call. It looks like it's a scam.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it, creating, characters that ended up being very big and mythic and almost like a big horror film is what it turns into in the
Right.
end, a really large scope.
Yeah, and you've also recently, very recently, you sent me some stuff for the Motorhead book and the it's a pet project of mine because I am, I'm the world's biggest Madonna fan, and I don't care if it will only seem blasphemous to people who think in this very binary limited way. I mean, people who think, oh, well, like David J. Scow, for example, when I emailed him and I said, hey, Ossiana, I was talking about David J. Scow, and I emailed him and I invited him to be part of the Black Sabbath book, and he wrote back, Black Sabbath and literature have nothing in common. And I was like, well, tell that to John Shirley. I mean, but or Anna Taborska, shout out to Anna Taborska. You know, come on, John Shirley is just, and that's a little bit him. That's a little bit hypocritical of David, right? Because he's the guy, he's the heavy metal, right? He wrote the Kill riff, right? So what is he
Mhm.
talking about? He wrote the Kill riff, right? It's about a metal band.
Mm.
And then, Skip and Spector went on tour with Iron Maiden. I mean, come on, right? I helped organize this thing with, anyway, with Craig Spector and David Scow, and that's a long story short, a long time ago. But so there's this kind of feeling among people. For example, I would never be able to ask Billy Martin to write me a story about, you know, for anything having to do with metal, because, and especially, he was complaining when Bowie died, and there was a lot of shit about Bowie that he sort of kept his mouth shut um,
I've
about
heard
Lemmy,
rumors.
right? But about Lemmy,
Oh,
because he's not a fan of Lemmy, and certainly not a fan of Black Sabbath or anything else. So, I mean, Billy Martin is Billy Martin, right? He's a bit of a snob. He likes what he likes, and he's he's the man, he's the man, right? I mean, you can't. He's an icon of our time, and so, but I, being a fan of music, I never when it when I was growing up in the 70s, we would just listen to some music, right? You turn on the radio and you'd hear, well, like in the words of Carrie Chrome, turn on the radio, hear the rock and roll, right? That's the song she wrote. and it's in California Paradise. It's such a beautiful song, right? Turn on the radio, hear the rock and roll, as performed by Dakota Fanning, you know. And Sherry Curry is a bitch. I'm sorry, but she has me blocked on Facebook. Long story. So we would hear, they'd have FM radio, and it would, like the King Biscuit Flower Hour, they'd play entire albums. Right? You hear entire albums, you hear REO Speedwagon, you hear The Who, you get, you know, um, everybody. And there was no rock and roll, hard rock, metal. You had AC/DC, you had Scorpions, you had Judas Priest. It was music. You know where Judas Priest got their name? It was a Bob Dylan song, right? A Bob Dylan song called "The Ballad of Judas Priest and something or other," right? And they do an incredible version of "Diamonds and Rust" by Joan Baez. Yeah, you need to go. Um, what what happened to my sound?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
You.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. So Oceana had to go meet with her employer, I guess meet with their employer. So picking things up with Michael. And so one of the projects that you're involved with me and Nocturnicorn is the Burroughs book. And you have a couple of pieces, and one of them is the originally we were going to do like a the Doom Hippies, what was it, Doom Hippies 4 or something like that. And you wrote a story that was, or was actually a poem for that, which I decided to include in the Burroughs book because it seemed to me to be very apposite to what one of the recurrent themes of Burroughs. And could you read that poem? Do you have that poem?
Was the name of the poem Doom Hippies?
The Doom Hippies, yeah.
Oh, I've got to look it up real quick. Just
And then,
I think I found it.
okay, great.
Okay, it's really short. Doom Hippies, born in the aftermath of war and the
You're kind
sin.
of breaking up.
Oh, oh, okay. How about now? Is my voice breaking up now?
No, good and solid.
Okay, I'll try again. Doom Hippies, born in the aftermath of war and the sins of nuclear heat, desiring to leave and explore the earth for something more complete. Raised in TV's most golden age, spinning vinyl in aural seas, breaking out of the gender cage, battling for oceans, whales, and trees. Their long hair soon became cliche, their drugs now mainstream distraction. Their peace and joy have gone astray, and their love has lost its passion. These doom hippies cry tears of pain, watching as all their dreams are slain.
Yeah, I really like that one because to me, the reason I chose to include it in the Burroughs book is because Burroughs was sent to the Los Alamos Ranch School when he was a teenager, and his I think one of his main obsessions that remained throughout his life, and is certainly a theme in his later his the trilogy, the Place of Dead Roads, the Western Lands, the Cities of the Red Night, is the idea that we need, and also present in books like Nova Express, is the idea that because of the whatever mentality led to Hiroshima and Nagasaki was so he was so disturbed by that I think he was such a tender and sensitive person that he couldn't process it. And it's like he spent the rest of his life trying to figure out, you know, whether we're doomed or not. and also what we're going to do after we've completely corrupted this planet, which he saw as a sort of like a boat that we keep sticking, holes into. And so he thought invariably we're going to have to go into space. But that means that we were going to have, I loved the way his mind worked. He would sort of extrapolate and say, well, very logically, of course, we're going to have to mutate, right? So mutation becomes adaptation, of course. That's how we get evolution. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gary. But mutations, random mutations, right? That
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how we get some bizarre variations, and some lines just die off. But all it takes is one, spawning couple to keep it going. And that's
Right.
we have like cryptid wolves that live in the forest outside of Tokyo, and they're called the the Makami. They've gone into folklore as the Makami, and that's really wild. I wrote a couple of stories called about the Makami, which is available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, and okay, so we're we're now down, and then there were three. Um,
Well,
so
you and I have been going for almost 3 hours
yeah,
now, so I'll hang around if you're gonna kind of bring this rodeo to a close. But if you're
well,
gonna go on with Michael for a while, I'm gonna
well,
be
well, well,
both at
well,
you.
well, I was going to switch gears and talk about the initial reason that you and I first were in contact, which is we are Gregor. And
Okay.
so this podcast is a kind of unofficial sequel to the thing that Don Kingfisher Campbell very graciously hosted. Shout out to Don. I'm gonna be sending him this recording.
Well, I don't want to cut Michael off if he had more to say.
That's
Nothing off the top of my head.
okay. Because we've had Michael as a guest before, and we'll have him again. So it's not like we won't have an opportunity to talk about all of his incredible creations. And so I want to talk about We Are Gregor because it's kind of gotten brushed under, not, I don't know even know what the term is. It's been kept pushing back and pushed back, and there was a lot of bullshit drama around it. That it's I think of it as um it's the closest to my heart, and it's kind of the reason that it's so closely tied into a lot of the story of Nocturnicorn Books, and as far as my being discriminated against as a disabled person, and a lot of heinous things that have happened as far as the murder threats and the just horrible things that people have said about me, and the there's the videos out that are on YouTube where somebody sent me 100 pack of razor blades with instructions on how to commit suicide, and as a sequel to that, and then they put up a murder threat video about me on YouTube, which was there for a month.
Why did this happen, Alex? I don't understand how a book on kind of disability rights provoked these kinds of responses.
Well, there is a man named Christopher B. Pelton. He's a horror author who lives in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and he's also severely mentally ill. Um, and he became obsessively focused in on me, and particularly, I guess, jealousy issues, whatever. I'm not sure exactly because nothing really, nothing compares to you, Sinead O'Connor. But you can't explain the motivations of somebody who's severely mentally ill. And I'm sure that in your experience, you understand that. I mean, of your mother, right? It's just It's also, Ramsey Campbell, the great Ramsey Campbell. His mother was severely mentally ill too. And he's something he talks about in was The Face That Must Die, I think. But so this guy became obsessively focused on me. And he started making, I guess, like these live stream Facebook posts about me. He It escalated quickly. I mean, we know about stalkers, like people like become negatively focused, like the worst case scenario possible is Mark Chapman with John Lennon. Um, God forbid, but God forbid. But we know that people like Stephen King get a lot of negative attention and death threats and people claiming that they actually wrote The Shining or whatever, right? This is this kind of situation we're talking
Mm.
about.
So sorry you had to experience this.
Thank you. And it sort of has escalated. First, it was a series of Facebook posts where he made fun of my brain injury. He said something like, wrote something like, any fat chicks like TBI guys.
Well,
He,
listen, I don't mean for you to go through the whole litany, and I know that can be painful itself. So
well,
I've heard enough to understand.
yeah.
My question's been answered.
So it has continued and continued and continued. After the murder threat video, which was seen by more than 300 people, I finally got it taken off the air after a month, and nobody bothered to tell me. I'm sure, many of my friends saw it and just considered it
Mm.
whatever. For whatever reason, Michael here has been the one person who has been consistently supportive. And I'm not saying other people haven't, but when I asked people to maybe report these things or like or to whatever to back me up, they're like, well, I'm afraid that they're going to target me next. It's like, yeah, that's called being a friend, dude. It's called being a friend. It's called standing up
Mm.
for your friend, but fuck me, right? Anyway, so one thing led to another, and the guy became so obsessive with me, he wanted me to murder myself. He wanted me to murder myself, so he sent me 100 pack of razor blades as an Amazon gift pack, Amazon gift bag, and it said it was my email, which he had, georgebailey679 at gmail.com, is obviously a reference to the classic Frank Capra film with Jimmy Stewart, James Stewart. And he wrote in this gift card, he said, um, "Dear George, it's it's not down the it's not down the block, it's across the street. Love, Clarence," which is the angel in It's a Wonderful Life. What he meant was, it's not down the block, it's across the street.
Mm.
That's the radial artery. There is a He was a close friend. He is a close friend with a woman in down in Virginia named Casey Hill, who does something called Dark Moon Rising Publications, and very, very, very dark people. She is a self-described pagan Christian pagan, or Wicca. So she's insane. But she has brought a lot of people on board. Her publications stole about 40 authors from me, including Ramsey Campbell, because they've been making up some heinous shit about me. And then they got a whole lot of people to defame me and make up misinformation about me, including the fact that I'm supposedly some sort of violent and threatening and dangerous person. Um, One of their friends is named David L. Cameron. He's an attorney in Andover, Massachusetts. He regularly and daily threatens to murder me on Facebook. he's posted that even though I live in California, there's thousands, I mean, I'm bad, terrible at numbers, but it's thousands of miles away. He claims that he's afraid for his life because I'm a violent and dangerous person, and he posted this shit on Facebook.
Mm.
Guy who used to be a friend of mine who had me on his program like every week, named Jesse Deadman, who is also a publisher and author. And he put up a video that started to appear about 3 weeks ago, like murder Alex S. Johnson. What is happening with Alex S. Johnson? Murder suicide. It has my face on my, copyrighted Facebook, you know, profile
Mm.
picture on the cover. And then that had about 300 views. The next one is like it's all Alex Johnson's fault. That's
This is
also,
crazy.
yeah, and and it's like, and he denies, this Jesse Deadman guy denies that that any of this happened to me. He thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist, so he's putting out propaganda. He's making money, like Ossiana was talking about, making money from social media platforms, literally making money off of my pain and suffering, which has also traumatized my elderly parents
Mm.
who are also disabled. So there's nothing you can do about it. We had the Sacramento Sheriff's Department come out here. They said that it wasn't a crime to send, razor blades in the mail to
Mm.
somebody with suicide instructions. I asked them, did they understand what, you know, across the street meant? They said yes. They said it was not a crime. So apparently, according to the law, I would have to be dead in order for, and even still, it wouldn't be a crime.
Yeah.
If I committed suicide, it still wouldn't be a crime.
So what's the status of Gregor now?
Um, wow. Um,
Do you have enough product in it to be able to publish it?
um, I'm just okay because I've had a number of people pull out of my books because they get fucking impatient. And I'm like, look, and they ask me, when's it going to come out or whatever? When's the Burroughs book going to come out? People, and I'm like, dude, every time somebody pulls out, it means I have to completely rehaul a 100,000 word plus manuscript.
Mm.
Right, right.
So it's not a question that I can answer. You know,
Okay.
I would say we have about 50 contributors. I would say if I wasn't, and I'm sorry, my mom gets mad at me for she thinks that I need to be a saint or something, but you know, it's very stressful because you have a brain disease, and then people still expect you to be, you know, basically, like a
Superhuman.
Hindu god or whatever with multiple arms, and it's not enough that I'm working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Literally, it's like, when's the books coming? When are the books coming out? It's like, and I'm not angry at you by any means, shape or form, Gary. Don't get me wrong. It sort of triggered me. It's sort of like, oh shit, man. You know, that
Yeah,
was
that wasn't my intent at
I
all.
know it's an innocent question. I apologize, but I'm sort of like, I was like, oh my God, fuck you, Gary. No, I'm just kidding. But really, that is the situation. So every time, and we've had people pull out, it kind of it's kind of has a somewhat of a what do you call it, like a snowballing effect, because
Yeah.
it's sort of kind of like the stock market. When confidence rises in Nocturnicorn Books, because everybody's enthusiastic about being in a book. Then confidence falls when it's delayed. And the reason it's delayed, they don't pay attention to the reason it's delayed. Death threats, murder threats, extremely stressful,
Yeah.
suicide, murder. I'm going to show up at your door and I'm going to fucking kill you and your family. And oh yeah, oh, I've got brain disease too, right? And I've got chronic pain. But oh, never mind. I have people are so callous. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, people are so fucking callous. You know, they're like cold. They're cold-blooded. I've had people, major authors, come to me and say, "When are you going to come out with the book?" And I talk about brain disease. They're like, "When are you going to come out with the book?" I'm like, talk about the death threats. When are you going to come out with a book? And this guy is a huge horror author, big name. I won't say his name, but best-selling horror author, big star, Bram Stoker Award winner, multiple Bram Stoker Award winner, who every couple of months pops into my DMs and says, "When is the Burroughs book going to come out?" And I have the same answer, and then before I have a chance to explain what's going on, they ghost me, and then they show up again. Last
Mm.
time they showed up was this morning, and I said, "Oh, so you're going to ghost me after you refuse to listen to me?" You know, I said, I said, basically, I did an entire Facebook post just for them. And I said, well, we're waiting for V. Vale of Research Publications to give us an original thing. And they took less than half a second to read my post, which I made specifically for them, and said, oh, it's great that V. Vale is going to be publishing the book. I was like, so you didn't read it. So you're not at all interested. You're not at all curious, you know. And they said, well, I'm busy. And I said, now you're going to ghost me. And he said, I never ghosted you. I was like, fuck you. Of course you're, I said, you're going to ghost me now. And sure enough, they ghosted me.
Well, on on a more positive note, I did dig up the poem that is going to be in Gregor, and if
Yes,
you like, I'll be glad to read it.
yes, please.
Okay, it's going to take me a minute here to get situated. So this is called California Bay Laurel, and it was originally published in the Poetry Review Verse Virtual in November of 2022. California Bay Laurel. Smell evokes the strongest memories, bypassing thymus, racing right to the olfactory bulb like some nutso driver in Stop and Go, passing everyone on the road's shoulder. Today I'm in the fog of coastal redwoods, 2,500 miles away from my Georgia home's August depression. Heat and humidity so bad you can see fungi grow, sometimes even on yourself. Yesterday, the funeral of my wife's oldest sister. We're now cleansing, hiking in the forest, persisting for millennia, when I'm suddenly triggered by a branch laced with emerald knife blade leaves, and instead of the Russian River Valley, I'm 15, standing on Pacific Coast Highway 1 at Cayucos, thumb out, having just picked a few bay laurel leaves to place under my backpack straps. Leaves pushing out the scent of good health, pungent, peppery, part thyme, part oregano, somehow slowing my heart rate, deepening inhalations and exhalations, injecting a fog of calm so intense I've forgotten the thrown objects and occasional blows of my bipolar mother. The oozing wound just to the left of my heart, sliced by Dad's perpetual absence. Stigmata resurrecting phoenix-like 50 years later, as I pick leaves from another bay laurel, when my cell rings and I hear the voice of my older daughter, the veterinarian.
That is brilliant and beautiful and touching. Yeah.
Thank
Um, okay. I'm just gonna I'm looking for skull vinyl. Just one second. Skull vinyl. Okay. So I'm gonna read a few selections from skull vinyl, and then we're gonna, you know, close this out. So
you. Okay.
I think it's been a very nice, really interesting kind of session here. And I really thank you, so much for sharing your talents and your your insights, all of you. And you know, I'm very, very fortunate to have you as friends and colleagues and contributors. So this is well, this is dark as shit. Um, and this book is one of two books that's in the collected in the Widener Library at Harvard University. Skull Vinyl and the Doom Hippies. So this one is, wow, Flowers of Justice. Daddy, does it hurt you when I poke you down there? Does it sting when I desert you? Leaving my love in there, no time like a parent's present. A gift that lasts forever, a velvet sword in a violent glove, rests until never. Violation, cremation, sacrificial stomping grounds. I didn't want to, but you called the hounds and the mansion on fire, collapsed to rubble and dust. But if you must, don't call it love. And we will not pretend ever again to pull the reeking carcass into health with a push and a shove and talk quietly as in a laboratory where weird sights bewilder and tubes and beakers bubble with news. I'm not coping well with your experimental science. Or maybe the taboo of breaking new ground shivers your mind and loins, but I too have grown a few seeds, a few flowers, and I'll send you some from my mausoleum. Connect the dots to through. And that,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a poem that was inspired by Daddy by Sylvia Plath. I just decided to play around with it, right? Um, this one is my Trump poem called Atrevesados, and Atrevesados means outlaw in Spanish. Arise, awake, don't shake those gory locks at me. Bake your head like beans. Cure the living dead disease striking the heartland. Beans popping, Mexican. Jump core strut las bandas invisibles. Keep those taco trucks coming, bustling and shoving. I am the least racist. I make a run long, straight as blood splatter, run for the wall. Straight as Olympians, Berlin 39. Smack into the meat. Made from burritos, tamales, animales, Quetzalcoatl target fodder. I am the face of the new fascist. Excavated from the sleepless. Believe us, not the fakes. Horrors of the false news. Black masses yearning to bleed free. Photoshop permutations of the sickness. Get going, slackers, on your marks. Upset. Flow. Use your sombreros. It is what they are for. Sleepy time is over for democracy. That peeps what it slow-mos in living color. The carnage is appalling. The alt-right never dreams but that it polices. So screw your eyes to the war horse. Nuclear holocaust is like none other. In brief, fuck you, brother. Eje, ejecutar miles mexicanos ilegales con caras como maíz. La parad no quiere ver. The grounds for my impeachment are baseless. And since, unfortunately, we seem to be in a kind of a worm Ouroboros of dystopian nightmares, or it's sort of a MC Escher, you know, like maybe a striptease, you know. The last couple of poems, they're shorter. One is called Trumpland. Okay. I didn't, there's not going to be like a happy ending for a while, so might as well get some use out of these poems, which I wrote in 2017. Dance, dance, dance to the song they're playing on the Sieg High Fideles. I'm so clever. In stereo, forever stoned on alt-right fever. Are you a true believer? Catch their latest hits. Do the genocide. See boys and girls catch fire. Take all our amusing rides. Roller coaster of death. Visit the body pit park. Climb over rubbery corpses for a lark. One rock, one undesirable fewer, one executive boulder, crushing the demos forever. Buy the ticket, take the lie, twist a fact, and win a prize. Orange is the new black mass. It's lovely when your daughter has a fine hot ass. Bedtime for democracy is a fun, fun time for the likes of me. Ride a tiny cart to the land of blown apart. How do you bleed? Gilded as charged. How do you burn? Red, black, and charred. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And the last poem is called Before the Wall, which was actually inspired by the memoir by Marguerite Duras about World War II, but and then it kind of took a turn for kaiju. Um, this is, I mean, I'm sure that Michael can speak to this, right? Somehow
I
kaiju
do.
gets in there, right? Bless you, right? Kaiju, kaiju. Um, Slowly and by turns, they wiped the tears from their faces and salved their burns, scraping all traces of fear into the urn. The powder rising higher. Every death trip has been earned. Remember the fiesta? Now we're going to test you. America stands tall as Gojiro before the wall. So that's, I don't know how, right? This Gojiro is like Godzilla. That's
Well,
the
it was
original.
Gojira, which means God whale in Japanese.
Yes,
And the
right?
Americans decide to call it Godzilla.
Godzilla, Godzilla, Godzilla. Down. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, so which is a great song by Blue Oyster Cult, and John Shirley has written a lot of songs for Blue Oyster Cult. Um, so again, this has been the Small Bear Show. What is it, episode like 4 now? And next week we will have authors Destiny Pfeiffer and John Palisano. Very much looking forward to them. They're both contributors to, actually, John Palisano has contributed to um, several anthologies, along with Michael H. Hanson uh, um, and John Shirley, Caitlin R. Kiernan. And those are White on White literary tribute to Bauhaus, Hand of Doom literary tribute to Black Sabbath, and The Junk Merchants too, a literary tribute to William S. Burroughs. And we've been talking with Michael H. Hanson, who is the creator of the SHA'DAA Shared Universe series, contributor to The Beauty of Death, um, volume one, Death by Water, which was put out by Independent Legions, credited by Alessandro Manzetti, and it features, I believe, Stephen King, and along with Clive Barker and Ramsey Campbell and the gods. And then we have Gary Grossman, who's a naturalist, a scientist, a memoirist, and retired professor of animal ecology at the University of Georgia. And my name is Alex S. Johnson. I'm the founder of Nocturnicorn Books. John Shirley calls me the Baudelaire of our time. Um, my favorite book that people seem to enjoy a lot is the Doom Hippies. And let's see if I'll show the Doom Hippies. I did the cover. Um, they are weirder than you can possibly imagine, more evil than your worst nightmares, and they walk among us. The Doom Hippies pray for the peace of death. So I designed this cover, the montage. That's a literal satanic altar. And this this is one of the two books, along with the Skull Vinyl, that has been acquired last year by the Widener Library at Harvard University. Apparently, they consider it to be significant. So until next week, this has been Alex S. Johnson, aka a Small Bear, and you've been watching the Small Bear Show. So God bless you, and we'll see you soon.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.